it was Clinchmas Eve last night, and now today we all get to sit around, talk, go on Twitter, and brag about the fact that there is an X next to the Edmonton Oilers name in the North Division standings. If you had asked me a week ago if I was going to be excited for when the Oilers clinched, I would have been like, no, it's been a foregone conclusion for so long. It's just a thing, like whatever. But then it happens, and you're kind of like, all right, this is pretty sick. Like, you're all fired up again. It's official. There's something... We'll go around the horn on this. I'll start with you, Josh. There is just something kind of nice about knowing it's like officially official.
Dude, it literally just feels like more relaxing now. Like, yeah, the Oilers were inevitably going to make playoffs, and it's been that way for the last month and a half here. But just like that feeling of relief and knowing that it's completely out of the way now, and literally the only output that could change for the Edmonton Oilers coming down the stretch here is, well, one, whether or not they're going to have home ice advantage with the way that the Winnipeg Jets are playing is very, very likely going to happen.
Yeah. And
then as well, literally now we can just worry about McSentry. That's all we can worry about now. So, yeah, good vibe around the team. That was a dominant win last night. And we can all kind of take a breath now and realize that we are a team and an organization now that is going to clinch, not in game, well, I guess in a regular season, it would be game 80, 81, 82. Like, we're still a ways away from the end of the season. We've clinched. So, yeah, it's a good feeling.
Dan, your take on last night?
Yeah, I mean, Josh is right. It's exciting for a fan base that got robbed of this last year. We were all just kind of in the same mode of, preparing for clinching and possibly taking the Pacific Division in general. We were on Vegas's heels, and then we got eliminated by the 26th overall Chicago Blackhawks from playoff contention. So it's definitely, I think, a little bit more special to us than the other teams that have been able to clinch ahead of us. But yeah, for me, it's going to be stuff to watch now is hashtag McSentry, as Josh said, as well as who do we end up playing? Because I don't think we're going to be first overall in the division. I think Toronto's got that pretty much sealed up, even though we've got a couple games in hand there. It's going to take Toronto floundering at the end of the season here to fail that. So then is it going to be the Winnipeg Jets falling off and we end up facing the Canadians, or is it going to be the Jets like we've been kind of planning, I guess, for like the last month? So yeah, it's there's still some questions to be answered. It's a matter of if not when, when not if for the McSentry for me, and I'm excited to watch that now too.
Makes total sense. Zach Lang, your thoughts on clinching, your thoughts on the McSentry, your thoughts on who they could play in round one?
Yeah, lots of exciting stuff, obviously. I mean, we'll start with the last part there. I think, Winnipeg is still the most favorable matchup. I said it earlier here and on the stream, or in our State of the Nations. And I'll say it again, the Jets have not looked very good here recently. They've been on a real cold streak, and I think that Edmonton could have a real good showing against them in the first round of the playoffs. So that's my favorite matchup. Obviously the McSentry, it's going to happen. It's absolutely unbelievable to see what he's doing here. Putting up some crazy numbers. And something interesting, too, let's go back to the beginning of the season here. 9 games into the season, the Oilers had a 3-6 record, right? And there was a lot of question marks around this team. It was kind of the oh shit, here we are again sort of situation following this team. But since then, they've had the 4th best points percentage in the entire NHL. It's absolutely unbelievable to see. Their goals against per hour is the 5th best in the National Hockey League in that stretch, and they've scored the 4th most goals for per hour. So this is an Oilers team that's taken their game to another level here, and I'm really excited to see what they can do in the playoffs.
Womp TV in the Twitch chat says, let's go Oilers. Give us your take on the Oilers clinching, whether you're on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, or on our YouTube channel as well, which is called The Nation Network. Head there and subscribe to the channel. Never miss a live show. Now we head down the stretch. The only really thing to watch is the out-of-town scoreboard, obviously, to see if we're going to play Winnipeg or Montreal. It feels like a foregone conclusion that home ice is wrapped up. So now we get to the touchy subject of rest. And, what do you want to see, the Drysaddles, McDavids, and Darnell Nurses sit out for a couple games and all that stuff? Should they maybe just let those players decide and say, hey, if you want a break, you feel like you need a break, you can sit? Or should they play everyone right till the end? I'll start with you again here, Josh. You want to see some rest, or what do you think?
Well, I think the biggest difference this year is that this isn't an 82-game season. Like, if this was game, 80, 81, 82, then maybe a rest would kind of be a foregone conclusion because, yeah, you don't want them playing that many games going into the playoffs, where this year, yeah, it is a shortened season, but at the same time, the games are kind of stuffed in more congregated as well. So yeah, they're playing a lot of games in a shorter amount of time. So I think it kind of will be 50-50. Half of the input will come from the players. And, I'm sure Tippett and Holland will go to them and say, hey, do you guys want to play? Or would you rather have those games off? But then also at the same time, I think that I want to say they won't give them an option, because I'm sure that if Dave Tippett goes to Connor McDavid in game 56 and McDavid's already wrapped up the McCentry and he has 102 points, I'm sure that if he goes to McDavid and says, listen, you're not playing, I don't think Connor's going to put up a big fit about that. So, I honestly, from my perspective, let's freaking rest the players. Let's get them all tuned up for playoffs and let's not risk it. But not until McDavid gets 100. So,
Dan, what do you think? Rest, or you just let him play right up to the end?
Well, and Josh made the good point that we are in a 56-game season versus an 82-game season. But I've kind of talked about it before, I think on this very show, definitely on ON Radio as well, that up until about a month ago, we were clipping at the same point of games played over the days elapsed. We've now hit 809 games as of last night, and that's gone through over 111 days. And the last season, it took 125 days to get through the first 809 games for the league. So that shows you that, like Josh mentioned, that grind and that tear that we've been going on could be starting to play heavy, especially when we're playing games back to back to back, and you got 1 day rest here and there. So for me, I'd probably like to see, if not a full sit, see McDavid and Draisaitl playing those 13-14 minute games in a back-to-back scenario. I think that those two guys are competitors enough that they're not going to want to come out of the game completely. And then the other element of it is that Dave Tippett has some new additions to the lineup to work in and try and figure out where they're going to slot in. McLeod is a perfect example of a guy that is an addition to the lineup without really having to make any transaction there other than calling him up. But you got to figure out what he can do with this team and where he can go as the lineup goes forward. So, yeah, I think that there's still stuff for this team to figure out and still angles for them to show what they can do in the playoffs.
Spank Egg, Blue Bunny 123 in the Twitch chat. What's going on? I'll give my take, then I'll come to you, Zach. I'm going to jump in front of you. The North Division playoffs might not start until the 20th because there are games scheduled on the 18th and 19th. And one, I can't see the NHL just canceling 2 games right at the end of the year. So in the North, the Oilers playoffs might not start till the 20th, but their last regular season game is going to be on the 15th. So that right there gives you 3 to 4 days to really rest up, potentially not even have these guys have to practice too intensely. And there's a lot of chance for rest there. So I just think if you don't play them the last game of the year against Vancouver, then on Wednesday the 12th, they'll play against Montreal, and then they're going to have over a full week off until game 1 of the playoffs. And McDavid is a guy who has talked about how he likes getting into a rhythm. He likes playing a lot. He likes when he can sort of get a feel for the game and get rolling. I worry a little bit that if you start resting the guys like McDavid, Mike Smith, Leon Draisaitl, Darnell Nurse, if you start sitting them for games too early, they might lose some of their mojo here right before the playoffs. And I don't want that to happen. I want this train to keep rolling. I want the momentum to keep going. Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you could hear it in the post-game presser last night. McDavid, Barry, and Tippett all spoke, and they all talk, and they've talked about for a long time, building up towards the playoffs, building up to reach that climax of game 1 and then continuing to go from there, right? So I don't see them sitting at all, personally. I think, the more important thing is to play healthy, or to be healthy, rather, and maybe try not to play as reckless of a style as game. Hey, McDavid, maybe let's not crash the crease so hard here, in game 56 of the regular season, and let's try and stay healthy for the playoffs here. I think they'll play, especially considering that break that they'll have, as you guys have mentioned there.
And if I can say this, fellas, let me know if you agree with me. I think also the added benefit of resting some of the guys, and this doesn't even mean McDavid or Draisaitl, I think the added benefit of resting some of, whether it's the bottom 6 guys or some of the bottom pairing defensemen, is you also want to get some of the players that haven't been in the lineup in game shape come playoff time. Because if you, for some terrible circumstance, have Tyson Barrie or one of those right-handed defensemen go down come playoff time, and you got to throw Evan Bouchard in the lineup, and he hasn't played any fashion of a hockey game in a month and a half, it's not really the shape that you want to get them in a game at. So I think that the benefit of resting some of those players, not the top guys, maybe some of the lower end guys going down the stretch of the regular season here, is because you want to get those players that haven't played a ton of games actually in game shape and ready to go in any sort of a rhythm, just in case that ends up happening in the playoffs.
And I agree on that. Like, I think Bouchard, I think he should play tonight, and I think he should probably get in 2 more games for the rest of the year. And we're already seeing that. I just totally lost my shit. Oh, Neil's playing. Ennis is playing. Like, Tippett is trying to get these guys going. Sorry, I'm reading Dave Tippett updates because he's speaking right now to the media as we go. So I think, yeah, get some depth players involved in playing and make sure everyone's good to go. But I just don't necessarily want to be like, we're sitting McDavid and Draisaitl for 9 days before the playoffs just to rest them. Yeah. I think like that might almost do more harm than good. Dangerous Wade asking if Philip Broberg is eligible to play. He's eligible to play, but Dave Tippett saying just now, quote, chances are slim that Broberg actually plays, which makes sense. I mean, the left side of that blue line is loaded up. I'm not sure if anyone exactly has a take on this, but like, you don't burn a year of the ELC or anything like that just to like get Broberg some games down the stretch here. It makes sense why they wouldn't necessarily play him.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day here. I was just going to say, Josh, that, the way it works with his ELC right now is he would have to play under 7 games to retain this year of his contract, right? So there's, first of all, no way he's playing 7 games the rest of the year. Maybe he gets in for a game or 2, but I don't even know if I see the value in that. Look, this is a guy that played really hurt during the World Juniors and was not the same player when he returned to the SHL, to the point where he was hardly even playing for his team over there in important games. So I think, the best thing for Broberg right now is to come over here to North America, get out of his quarantine period, get on the ice, get some good hard practices in, skate with the taxi squad guys, and he's a guy that can help the other guys prepare for the playoffs.
The Philip Broberg development, the Evan Bouchard development plan for Philip Broberg for the remainder of the season here. Brad Stepanko is Nail Yakupov available to play, which is a nice nod to the other live show we're starting to get going here on Oilers Nation. Josh, tell us about the game day plan for some live stuff.
Yeah, we're debuting the brand new Oily Boys Intermission Extravaganza. So we did it last Saturday, the BOA, and essentially all it is every once in a while, coming down the stretch of the regular season here, we're going to have nights where we're going to go live during the first and second intermissions, give away some prizes, announce who wins the prizes post game, and we're just going to snap it around during the intermission. Me, Cooomzy, and Wanye are just going to talk about the game, talk about random Oilers related stuff. We've seen a big trend on Twitter this year where people don't necessarily get too engaged during the intermission banter on Sportsnet and wherever the game is being streamed. So we wanted to have another outlet where people could just come and be a part of the conversation and kind of take that Twitter conversation to another platform. So yeah, we're going to be streaming across all the nation channels and just hanging out and chatting. So come win some prizes and get oily.
Dave Tippett saying in his press conference his intention is to keep Larson and Kulikov together. So we'll see how that plays out tonight in the game. Doesn't sound like there might be too many changes, but we'll keep it locked on Dave Tippett here, see if he changes anything up. The top 6 is something I wanted to touch on quickly here as we're about halfway done this week's episode of State of the Nation. McDavid playing with Draisaitl recently, and a big reason why is because Tippett has been liking what he's been getting from we'll call him the bottom 9, or even just the second line. Last night, Cahoon got on the board with a nice goal. New just playing well. Dan, is there enough from the bottom 9 of this team to leave you confident in leaving McDavid and Draisaitl together come playoff time, or do you still think it's best to split them up and have those 2 stars on separate lines?
Well, I'm a huge versatility guy. I think that you just need that ability to change on the fly. You've mentioned it before, Tyler, being able to change your lines for your matchups that you need, depending on whether you're home or away. And then also just for the team that you're facing. You go up against a Toronto team and you're going to need some more solid defensive play from your bottom 6. So you may look to separate Leon and McDavid. But the big thing with those guys is it's just, we talked about it before with McDavid wanting to get his at-bats in, is to just keep that confidence going, keep that flow going, so that if they do take a break from that for a couple of games in a playoff round, when they come back together, it's all gravy, baby, and everybody's oiled up and ready to go. So yeah, for me, it's been exciting, I think, to see the depth come along. Like Ennis played his best game in a long time. last night. And so, yeah, it's that versatility that you need to be able to win playoff rounds that maybe you don't even have a business playing in. So thinking forward to the conference finals, or however you want to put it, whether it's playing the East or the West or the Central Division team, you're going to have a whole different look there than you've seen all year. So being able to be versatile and adaptable is huge for this team.
Yeah, it is interesting. You also mentioned Tyler Ennis playing his best game in a while, also playing his only game in a long, long time. He's been out of the lineup for a bit. Zach, what do you think? Keep them together, split them up? If we could flash forward to game 1 of the playoffs, what would you like to see happen with the top 6?
I don't know. That's a really hard question. I think McLeod's looked really solid in that top 6 role here so far. I think he's playing well. Yeah. It's playoffs, so it's going to be hard to say. Like, I would be inclined to think that they split up McDavid and Draisaitl for game 1. But in the same breath, like, they're just so good together. If it's against the Winnipeg Jets, I think you maybe want a little bit more depth throughout the lineup and have a stronger top 6 there. But it's really going to be, I think it's one of the harder things to predict right now. But I could see them sticking with Leon Connor together.
The thing that concerns me with that is that's such a good emergency plan. Like, when you're down by a goal heading into the third, it's so nice to go, all right, we're loading up. And when you start with that, you lose the ability. You're going right to emergency plan, break glass in case of emergency. You're going to it right from the start, which on one hand, you go, well, if it's the best option and it's what you want to win you a big third period, then just roll it together all the time and let it win you games. But I do think there's something to be said about keeping them split up and hitting teams with just an absolute curveball when the game gets really close. But Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, probably the reason I'm not an NHL general manager is because I want to play them together.
Yeah.
If it were my decision and this was game 1 of the playoffs, I'm putting McDavid and Draisaitl together. When they're on the ice together, their underlying numbers are disgusting. And not only that, but their overlying numbers are also disgusting because they literally just dominate in every facet of the game. And I also think that kind of gives you an opportunity for every time that top line is on the ice, you put out that Nurse-Berry combo and you just say, go for it. Just go put up goals, put up points. And then that also gives you a chance for that second line, depending on if Cloud is there or if it's Nuge, Yamamoto, and Cahoon. If they're just somewhat defensively responsible, stay even, break in a goal every once in a while, and then play them with the Jones-Bear combo, I think that gives you, a good two-way lineup coming down the second side there. And then also your bottom 6, if they just literally stay even, and then a majority of their minutes are played with the Kulikov-Larson combo. I just think that stacked up front, there's no team in the NHL. Well, there literally is no team in the NHL that can compete with that top line. So, yeah, from a fan perspective and also from a perspective of let's just let them drive the train of this team. Yeah, I would keep McDavid and Draisaitl together because it's not beatable.
All right, let's talk a little McSentry, Mark, to wrap up this week's podcast. We've touched on it a little. McDavid essentially averaging 3 points per game here. Right now, he has 14 points in his last 5 games. I think we're all going to be in agreement that he's getting it, right? Like, no one's going to sit here and be like, nope, he's going cold, and he's getting it. So let me float this. Will he get it? So they're going to go Vancouver tonight. Thursday, they go against Vancouver. Saturday, Vancouver. Monday, Montreal. Wednesday, Montreal. Will he get it before that second game against Montreal, Nation Dan? Well, I think you might be muted, Dan. Nope, now you're unmuted. I think we're having technical... Can you guys hear Dan? Am I the only one not hearing Dan? Well, I don't think the listeners can hear Dan. Yeah, no one can hear Dan. No one can hear anyone except for me right now. Zach, Josh, you guys good? Oh my God, what is going on? All right, well, that might be a premature wrap. Give me a thumbs up if you think Connor McDavid gets to 100 points before the second game against Montreal. Yes? Yes? Zach, no? Zach's frozen now too. Everything is falling apart. So we're going to wrap up this week's episode of State of the Nation. Thanks for tuning in. We made it 20 minutes without technical difficulties. Yes, Dan, you have a baby Yoda. It's May the 4th. Starship Enterprise, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. I'm sorry this is getting cut short. We'll talk